So, what is going on, guys? I am Black Ops Amazing. Welcome back to another zombies video on the channel, where today I have some interesting storyline stuff I want to talk about to do with Classified, the Moon, and our Ultimis characters. Now, there is so much storyline stuff to get through since we have 4 zombies maps, so obviously videos like this and things that have been found I'm going to be covering over time. They're going to be spread out. I'll be making videos on these things that are found when I can. However, getting into today's video, so in Classified, this in my opinion is our most interesting map in terms of storyline, since we know it revolves around the old Ether story that we haven't really heard anything about for 8 years now. And Classified touches up on that old storyline again, and the very last thing we saw was our Ultimis characters, Richtofen, Takeo, Nikolai and Dempsey, being stuck on the moon, where at the end of the moon Easter egg, Richtofen switched bodies with Samantha. He took control of the zombies, which left Nikolai, Takeo, Richtofen and Dempsey trapped on the moon with Samantha's soul inside of Richtofen's body and Richtofen's soul inside of Samantha's body in the MPD. So that was the last thing we heard of these characters on moon. They were trapped there. The next map after that, we moved on to BO2 with our transit characters. The only other time we ever heard of moon again was in Buried, where in the ending Easter egg, Maxis, who gained control of the zombies and the ether's energy, he travelled back in time to moon and plucked Samantha's soul out of Richtofen's body, where she joined him in Argotha, which left Richtofen's body still trapped on the moon along with Nikolai, Takeo and Dempsey. However, he no longer had a soul. His body was catatonic. And as for the other characters, Takeo, Nikolai and Dempsey, well, they basically lost their minds anyway, due to all of the experiments that Richtofen had done to these characters previously in Call of the Dead and Doris. Nikolai, Takeo and Dempsey had basically lost their minds anyway, also due to the mass amount of 115 they'd been exposed to over their time leading up to moon. So all 4 of these characters were left trapped on moon hopelessly. We assumed that they were going to be trapped there for the rest of eternity. However, Classified sheds some new light on the original story and tells us what happened to these characters after moon. There are 7 different audio cards you can find in Classified. Once you find them, you put them into a computer and you will start to hear audio logs from Cornelius Perlin. Cornelius is a character we've heard before in our zombies storyline. He was actually Peter McCain's handler all the way back from Shino Numa. That was the last time we really heard from him. We also know he was responsible for sending Tank Dempsey and his crew, those Marines, into Verrucht to rescue Peter McCain. But basically, Cornelius was originally a handler. He worked his way up through the ranks, where he eventually became station chief at the Pentagon. He worked here, he saw what was going on. He was the brainchild of Broken Arrow. That was his vision. He also talks in these radios about how he met up with Dr. Richtofen. Richtofen told Cornelius about everything that Group 935 were up to. He told him about Samantha, Element 115 and stuff like that. Cornelius refers to Samantha as a weapon. She's been destroying facilities over the past 20 years. The US wanted to destroy her. However, Cornelius, instead of destroying her, wants to use her as a weapon for the United States. So anyway, I'll let you listen to the radios and I'll come back and talk more about it after. Here we go.
How dare you even touch the door?
This is Groom Lake Station Chief Cornelius Purnell. Personal log, March 11th, 1961. After being unable to get McElroy or Gates to see the light, I hoped my meeting with McNamara would fare better, but I had no such luck. For years now, DoD have run experiments with their 115 division, but we're the ones with all the supply. I told McNamara we have the Fort Knox of Element 115 right next to our nuclear testing site. If we combine resources and work together instead of simply bartering resources, Groom Lake could receive the funding to properly mine the materials and expand experimentation. But no, McNamara was uninterested. Another Secretary of Defense, another bust for Project Broken Arrow. Personal log, February 23rd, 1963. With construction of the moon teleporter ongoing, a number of scientists from the Pentagon's 115 division have been stationed on site here at Groom Lake. Dr. Schuster, head of the operation, continues to be full of surprises. He's been telling me these stories about an evil little girl named Samantha, that she can control the undead. I asked Colonel Sawyer about it, and he told me to pay it no mind. Apparently everybody's been laughing off Schuster's stories for years now. But then, yesterday, Schuster says he has proof. He claims this Samantha is responsible for several outbreaks over the last 20 years. Rattles off a bunch of names, and one of them was the Rising Sun facility. I lost a good man there, Peter McCain, and never got an explanation for it. I've decided to investigate this further. Personal log, July 29th, 1963. I've spent the last several months combing through archives and conducting extensive research. And I can't believe what I'm about to say, but this is real. This girl, creature, entity, this being possesses a very real and very dangerous power. Fortunately, as of now, her attacks have been contained. If she were to choose to unleash fury, she could wipe us off the map. And not just the United States, she could destroy everyone. But there is an opportunity here. To combat this threat, the Pentagon's going to need to significantly increase their 115 operation. To support that, they'll need greater access to our gold mine at Groom Lake. Project Broken Arrow is the key to all of this. 2 birds, 1 stone. We'll combat a threat to national security, and I'll secure the funding for my program and its operations. I'm drafting a report on the incident. I plan to present it to McNamara in the coming weeks. Personal log, September 3rd, 1963. The discussion with McNamara was a resounding success. His plans for it are bigger than I ever thought possible. The fools. It was so easy. All those hawks over there think about is war. I offered them a morsel, a nugget, and had the meeting out of the palm of my hand. Yeah, well, good riddance. They'll get their war, and I'll get my riches. They want to destroy this Samantha? It's so narrow-minded. Why destroy her when we can take her power and harness it for ourselves? With the amount of element 115 buried down there, just imagine what we could do. We could mold the earth anew, create it in our image. A toast. Here's to Dr. Schuster for gifting me this opportunity. When we get the excavator up and running at the test site, I'll be sure to get him access. And here's to Broken Arrow, and to opening new worlds. Broken Arrow, dream of mine for many years. When I joined the company, you know what I did? What I cut my teeth on? I sent men to their deaths. I was a handler. First for the OSS, then the CIA. I oversaw ops, and I sent in men to die. I was a bow. They were my arrows. Smokey, John Banana, and Peter McCain, Tank Dempsey. The list goes on and on. So many men lost. But my ops were good. Job well done. Pats on the back for Purnell. So, I climbed the ladder and eventually became station chief here. And spent much of my time, now that I think about it, in this very room. After we'd mined the element 115, we'd store it in here. I would stare at it for hours. I got lost in it. And then one day, it just clicked. I had to do what Group 935 failed to do. I would build a program to harness its power. was tired of killing. I wanted to create technological marvels, help humanity, improve the human condition, and who knows, maybe even bring the dead back to life. Repair the broken arrow, if you will. Now, I have the perfect test subject. This is Cornelius Purnell, report 639, August 3rd, 1963. Earlier today, while Dr. Schuster was performing test number 11, we had an unexpected arrival through the teleporter. We've been unable to verify what year they came from. Our struggle with temporal anomalies during teleportation is well documented, but we are certain of where they came from: the moon. This event alone is baffling enough and is without explanation. But it becomes downright absurd when you take into account that I know 2 of the 4 individuals. Corporal Tank Dempsey of the United States Marine Corps, who I knew personally and was declared KIA after a failed rescue op to recover Peter McCain. And Dr. Edward Richtofen from Group 935, who went missing weeks after we formalized the agreement to initiate Operation Stakeout. I didn't recognize the other 2, but they and Corporal Dempsey were in a delusional, near catatonic state. Medical evaluation shows they've suffered from excessive element 115 exposure. And quoting our medic, I'm not even sure how they're still alive. As for Dr. Richtofen, initially we believed him DOA. Upon closer examination, we discovered his body is very much alive, just 0 brain activity. How it came to be that these 4 men were on the moon, we may never know. However, for the immediate future, we'll be keeping them here at Groom Lake. They are ideal candidates for additional 115 testing.
So, there we go. If you don't quite get what he said at the end there, he reveals what exactly happened to our Ultimis characters after Moon. Now, just before that, he mentions how the US are now working with Dr. Schuster. Schuster, of course, worked alongside Richtofen in Derice back when that facility was active. If you don't know how exactly Schuster got to work in the Pentagon, well, Richtofen recommended him to the US. Since Group 935 were pretty much over, the Nazis were losing the war. Group 935 knew, since they were in contract with the Nazis, since they were working together with them, once the war was over, Group 935 employees would be arrested or killed for their crimes, working alongside the Nazis. And so Richtofen, knowing this, recommended Schuster to the Pentagon, and they hired him to help with their 115 experiments. So Richtofen basically saved some of the employees working at Group 935 from being killed or prisoned. But Schuster told the Pentagon about 935's experiments and helped them along with theirs. Schuster told the Pentagon stories about Samantha, about how she was in control, what happened to her in Derice, and stuff like that. Obviously, no one believed Schuster's story, not even Perlin, until he did research about this and found out that actually it might be true, that Samantha was the key to all of this, and that she was the weapon. He talks about how the Pentagon want to take Samantha down and kill her, but how he, instead of killing her, wants to attempt to get the power from her so the US can use it to win the war. That is the Cold War, of course. He obviously also talks about Broken Arrow, a thing that has been a dream of his. He talks about how he wanted to use Broken Arrow to do 115 experiments, teleportation, and bring the dead back to life. Cornelius tells Schuster about how he wants a teleporter linked to the moon, and as we see in Groom Lake, Area 51, they've built the mainframe. However, it seems as of yet they hadn't quite got the teleporter to link to moon. They couldn't quite teleport that far. However, as we hear, as they were doing experiments on the teleporter in Groom Lake, one day whilst Dr. Schuster was doing experiment 11, they had an unexpected arrival through the Groom Lake teleporter. And these, of course, were the Ultimis characters from Moon. Schuster had accidentally teleported them from the moon base down to Groom Lake. Cornelius says he knows 2 of the 4 individuals. Obviously those are Tank Dempsey because he used to be his handler, and also he knew Richtofen because they had met before. However, he didn't know who Takio or Nikolai was. But Cornelius tells us that all of the Ultimis crew, when he found them, were in a delusional catatonic state. Due to the mass amount of 115 that they'd been exposed to, the 115 had basically killed them, but for some reason they were still alive. So that was Takio, Nikolai and Dempsey. However, Richtofen, well, his body was a little bit different. When he arrived, Cornelius thought that he was dead. However, after closer inspection, they discovered that his body was still very much alive. There was just 0 brain activity. Of course, we knew that this was because Richtofen no longer had a soul. He should have been dead. Without a soul, Richtofen should have been completely dead. And yes, even though he wasn't moving at all, he looked dead. Upon closer inspection, it was revealed that his body is still very much alive. So all of the Ultimis characters were found in a very bad state, Richtofen of course being the worst, but they were all still alive. However, he says he took all 4 of the Ultimis characters' bodies and he is going to keep them at Groom Lake for the future. He says that their bodies are ideal candidates for additional 115 experiments. So there we go, that is what happened to the Ultimis characters after Moon. They were accidentally teleported back down to Earth when Cornelius and Schuster were doing experiments on the teleporter down at Groom Lake. But when they arrived down to Earth, Nikolai, Takio and Dempsey had basically lost their minds, their brains, due to the mass amount of 115. They should have been dead, but they were still alive. And as for Richtofen, his body was in a much worse state. He looked dead upon arrival, but upon closer inspection his body was for some reason still alive. It shouldn't have been. He had no soul, there was no brain activity, but all of these characters were found alive, unresponsive, and so Cornelius took them and they are now somewhere in the Groom Lake facility and he's saving them for tests. So that should mean then, as we know in Classified, we can travel to Groom Lake. That is where the Pack-a-Punch is located. We should be able to find the Ultimis crew there somewhere. Now, I've had a look around, I can't see them. Maybe there is an Easter egg where we can find their bodies somewhere in maybe test tubes, similar to how we have the transit crews in Blood of the Dead. I don't know, but this is extremely interesting. So there we go. Let me know your thoughts about this in the comment section below. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you have, drop a like rating. Make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest videos, and I will see you all in the next one. Until then, goodbye.